All purification practices are based on 4 opponent powers. The purification practices, regardless, can be prostrations, mandala offerings, vajrasatras, mantras. It can be going to holy places, making offerings to the 3 jewels, performing charities, etc., etc., etc. For it to have any effect, will not be at the amount that you do, where you do it, and how you do it. In order for it to have any effect, any purification practices, it must be based on 4 opponent powers. Number 1, remorse, regret, wishing that you had not done it, to be shameful of it, and not to parade around like a peacock and be proud of your negative actions, and be proud that you are evil, and be proud that you have a big mouth, and be proud that you fight, and be proud that you can sway people, be proud that you can bind people, be proud that you can push people around because you have some power, position, name, or wealth. To parade around like a senseless peacock, but to actually have shame, to regret, to remorse from the heart. And that regret and that remorse will be based on knowing that these actions will bring harm and unhappiness to oneself in the future again. Therefore, fearing the consequences for oneself and others, fearing the consequences, knowing on a logical, sound basis that this will come to you, and you do not want to experience it. You do not want to wait for it to come. Like that silly village down there enjoying having parties and not worrying about the flash flood that's coming. And all the way to the end, jumping up and down, playing music, singing karaoke, whatever. And then when the flood comes, everyone is killed. 1 or 2 survivors sit there and go, oh, we should have done something. We should have done something. Too late. You should do preventive practices. Number 1, remorse, regret. Number 2, the resolve not to do it again. A deep resolve not to do it again. And if that particular action is very strong and you cannot uproot it immediately, at least to slowly and gradually uproot it. To take it out slowly and gradually. If not immediately. So, if you lie or if you scream, myself, I scream at my monks 10 times a day. I'm trying to make it 9. I'm sincerely trying to make it 9. It used to be 15, by the way. But actually, I'm going to work a little harder. I'm going to make it 5 or 4. In any case, like that, with the delusion that we have the strongest, whether it is desire, whether it's screaming and shouting, whether it's the wish to lie about a product that we have, we know is 3rd class and we say it's 1st class or 2nd class. Or if we have attachments to certain people that we know are detrimental to our lives, we should gradually lessen those actions, step by step. How? By realizing their damaging effects, number 1. Number 2, to know that immediately there is a damaging effect, and ultimately you will suffer because of the negative karma accrued from those negative actions. Therefore, number 1, to have remorse. Number 2, to have a sincere wish not to do it again. Not in front of your friends, smoking cigarettes and having a nice cup of wine in a karaoke bar. Oh, this year I'm going to have 1 affair less. This year I'm going to buy 1 Mercedes less. This year I'm going to scream at my wife 1 time less, scream at my husband 1 time less, just to impress our friends. And then we go back and we do it double. We do more. That is not true resolve. And no matter how fun or entertaining it might seem at the moment, when the results of those actions come and blossom, let's not say blossom, but ripen, you will be in deep trouble. Deep, deep trouble. And then you will grovel and scream in the ground and cry and wail and pull your hair out and run to your sifus, run to the Taoist temples, run to the monks. That's where I get my business. So don't give me any more business. No more business. That's when you run to the Kuan Yin temples and sit there with chopsticks shaking, crying on your knees, wishing for help and assistance. Too late. Too late. When you have an accident, you run to the Kuan Yin and say, please don't let me have an accident. STUPID. Not very smart. But you avoid it from the beginning. The first is remorse. The second is a true resolve not to do it again. And be compassionate even with yourself. Oh God, I didn't become a Buddha on the 3rd of January. And you jump off the cliff. You run back to your sipu, you give your Dharma books back, you give your statues back. This is not for me, it doesn't work. No, you have to understand that you've been in samsara for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. If you eat a lot of cake like me, you like cheesecake and black forest, and the minute you walk by a bakery, you get excited and your heart starts to palpitate because you're excited. Every time you say, okay, diet, I go on a diet, and someone brings you a cheesecake out of love, you make up excuses and say, oh yes, thank you, you're so kind. If I don't eat it, I hurt their feelings. If I don't eat it, it goes to waste. It shows a lack of strength and character in myself. So, if I take that cheesecake on a continual basis, I look the way I look now. 50 kgs heavier than I was in 1992. More health problems. And if I go on this way, I will destroy my health. Destroy it. Forget the physical appearance, which doesn't really matter, but health-wise, I destroy my precious human body. Like that, to be compassionate even with yourself and realize that in this life alone, when we have a bad habit, how hard is it to pull it out, to uproot it? How hard is it? If small habits like my cheesecake habit is so difficult to uproot, which I tell you is very difficult to uproot, and I haven't been able to uproot it and my friends are not helping me. In any case, because the habit is so strong. It's just an example. So with small habits like that, if we cannot get rid of, how do we expect to get rid of ignorance, hatred, desire, jealousy, anger, malice, covetousness in 2-3 days, in 2-3 years? It's an illogical assumption that you can get rid of that so fast when you've had that habit for previous, so many lifetimes, innumerable. How can we just get rid of it in 2-3 days? And then if we don't, we give everything back, our malas, our dharma, and we go to our sipu and say, goodbye, I'm going to the karaoke. No, it cannot happen so easy like that. Be compassionate and forgiving with yourself, but don't be too forgiving. Then you go off the other end. Next year, Rinpoche. Next year. This year is not going to work for me. I've already fallen off the cliff. No, go extreme. Both extremes. The middle way. But to realize that if you shout 10 times a day, like me, you make it 9. With training, with effort, and enthusiasm, and contemplation upon its disbenefits, you will definitely be able to uproot it. You will definitely be able to lessen it. I have lessened my shouting, for sure. I have many witnesses. I have lessened. Like that, I have lessened my jealousies. I have lessened my hatred and vengeance. When I was in America, if someone did something funny to me, I wouldn't speak to them for months. Not because I'm trying to ignore them, because I don't like them anymore and I hate them. I just let them go. Now, when someone does something funny, I ignore them for a few months, a few days, but not out of hate. To let that person simmer down and to let myself simmer down. And with prayers and hope that we can regain something in the future again. That is sincere, what I'm telling you. I am not so easy anymore to fall into those traps. It is not because I'm a Rinpoche. Oh no. Rinpoche or not, throw that label out. I don't know what I am. I know that I'm a human being with a lot of faults, a lot of pluses. The game here is to increase the pluses and to lessen the faults. And thank goodness I have Dharma to show me how. In this case, the Buddhist Dharma. The game here is to lessen those faults. So, by being compassionate and forgiving, and with time and patience, even with yourself, you can lessen those activities. And you can make a promise not to do those again in the future. And gradually you make it 8, 7, 6. Even if it takes you 50 years to get rid of your anger. Fabulous. Because you will never have anger again. Therefore, you will never collect the karma that comes from having anger. Therefore, to suffer the repercussions of that karmic effect, which is to be born in a barren land, a land that is bare, that is scarce in nourishments, that is rough, that is dirty. You will avoid rebirth in that. And that rooting out of anger can be taken with you. Because the anger is from the mind. When you die, you take your mind with you. Therefore, if you take your mind with you, in your next life, you start one step ahead. No anger. Work on jealousy. Then next life, more and more and more. Eventually to enlightenment. But if you use your precious human life with the 10 endowments and 8 freedoms that I talked about yesterday in detail, if you use your precious human life for the accumulation of wealth, long life, friends, beauty, power and position, etc., if you do it for those reasons, because they are not associated with the mind, you cannot take that with you in your next life. They will be left behind, therefore they are bereft of benefit in the ultimate term. They are empty. So if you waste your lives 100% on these transitory, transient, temporary, elusive happinesses, when you leave, you will be very unhappy. Therefore, to focus your minds on what will really bring you happiness, which is the complete destruction of delusions. The 3 main delusions, ignorance, hatred, and desire, of the 3, if you condense it to ignorance, which is what binds us to existence, suffering, uncontrolled existence. People like His Holiness the Karmapa, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Sakya Tenzin, His Holiness the Great Kingo Pinze Rinpoche's example. Those beings are not within psychic existence without control. They are here controlled with power, with intention, skillfully helping others out. That is a different situation. Like when Buddha took birth on this planet, controlled, with the intention to show the final enlightenment. He could have gotten enlightenment in Ganden heaven or Tushita, but he purposely manifested enlightenment in our world. As an example, as a play for us to emulate upon. Like that, if you can gradually destroy your delusions and all its extensions, then you can definitely gain great happiness on the logical basis that when these delusions are rooted out, you will not act upon them. When you do not act upon them, you do not accumulate further negative karma. Therefore, you will not suffer the results. Very logical. That's why Buddha says you do not need to depend on an external God, on an external deity. You do not need gods and deities and spirits to help you to get to enlightenment. It is for you and yourself alone. Salvation is in your hands. On that logical basis, please meditate, contemplate, and think about that. You know when you can stop contemplating and meditating, when your attitude starts to change, therefore your actions. Don't think about meditating on naked deities with consorts, 50,000 arms, lots of heads, wrathful, in the middle of fire, smoke, riding on horses, mules, chickens, I don't know what they're riding on. Don't think about meditating on these strange deities that are fat and skinny, different colors. If you do not even try for a minute to change one's own delusions, Those deities are covering their mouths, laughing at you. At the same time, trying to be compassionate when you look up at them. Because that is not the way to enlightenment. If we can recite a few mantras, make a few offerings, do a few prostrations, wear a Buddha, an amulet, keep the picture of our Guru stuck on our forehead, and we can become enlightened, then we have been enlightened a long time ago. I've been doing that for years. And I'm still not enlightened. Far from it. That's my Guru. I've gone for that refuge ceremony. I've gotten this initiation. I've gotten that deity. I've gotten this statue, that mala. I've gone to India. My Guru is His Holiness, His Eminence, His faultlessness, His worship, on and on and on and on and on. Yet, look at us. Shameless heaps of negative karma. Untouched. Therefore, to make a commitment immediately, your New Year's resolution, your life resolution, to decrease your delusions step by step by step, immediately, based on sound backing. That is the second of the four opponent powers. And some of you are thinking, oh, do we have time for the third and fourth? Yes, we do. First, remorse. Second, to avow not to do it again. Even if you have to take small vows, if you know yourself, you go in front of the Buddha, your Kuan Yin, your Sifu, your meditational deity, yourself, and your wish for happiness, if you're a free thinker. And say, from today, 9 a.m. to tonight, 9 p.m., I will not shout at anyone. And then tomorrow you shout a little. And then the next day, take the vows. Then again and again and again. Gradually lessening that. I do that. I do it for 1 hour at a time, not 1 day at a time. I know myself. In any case, yes, you can take these small vows. No need ceremony, no need bells, no need hats, no need a big Rinpoche and a big throne and centers. You do it yourself. You have communion with the Buddha. You sit and you visualize the Buddha, or if you have an altar in front of your altar, and it doesn't matter if it's Kuan Yin, Amitabha, or Shakyamuni, or if the Buddha is porcelain or clay or whatever. To have communion with the three jewels and say, from today on, from tonight I will not do it. And to consciously hold it. That is it. That's the secret. No mantras, no bells, no initiation. Sorry. If you think you can sit there and think about cheesecakes and spaghettis and girlfriends and boyfriends and going out to karaoke's and celebrations and drinks, and then while you're meditating, you see a nice lady, you walk by and go, oh. The mantras is not going to help you. It's not going to help you. It's not going to do a thing. Then you put the mantra in a tape recorder and play that round and round, and you can just take a nap. You get enlightened, I hope. And if you do come back and see me, I'll try it. That is not the way to make, even if you're brave, weekly commitments, monthly, and increase it to yearly, and increase it to life. Be practical, be forgiving, be compassionate, and be simple with yourself. And know your limitations. If your limitations are great, wonderful. And don't shout tomorrow morning, I made this commitment, and then fail and look stupid in front of your friends. Be it a real communion, a real commitment. Number 3, to do purificatory practices, antidote practices. Any antidotes, such as Vajrasattva meditation, the 35 confessional Buddhas meditation, taking refuge, etc., etc., prostrations, mandalas, mandala offerings, Vajrasattva, 35 confessionals, Gongsha. Any of those practices, visiting holy places, serving your teachers, any of those purificatory practices will help to purify the already accumulated karma. Then, number 4, the last of the 4 opponent powers, the last, is to do the opposite, of what you have been doing. Instead of shouting, speak softly. Instead of having anger, practice patience. Instead of being attached, slightly detach. When you see people that bother you and drive you crazy, force a smile, and then go away, and don't say, If you usually like to gossip about people, lessen it, stop it. If you're used to upgrading your products and you know they're the lowest grade, stop it. You may get a little money now, but later you'll be suffering poverty. Look out into the world. How many people are poverty stricken and how many people are actually wealthy? The ratio is quite a big difference. Quite a big difference. To do the opposite actions, developing compassion, to read Dharma books with a good motivation, to take refuge, to do meditations, to listen to the Dharma, to contribute to the Dharma emotionally, physically, financially, any way that you can sincerely. If you do these four opponent powers, and you apply that to any Dharma or purification practices, definitely, surely, and steadily, you will become purified. And you will get the signs and dreams of purification. For example, in your dreams, you will have signs such as washing your gurus, washing a Buddha statue, vomiting, walking up a mountain, seeing the sunrise, seeing the moonrise, or coming out of quicksand, coming out of a deep pool. You will have these signs, and very clearly. Very clearly. That I can guarantee you. When I don't say that I'm so purified and I'm so excellent. I'm far from it. But when I was in Ladakh, North India, and I was doing some purification practices, I had a dream that His Holiness, the Great Songam Rinpoche came. This is one of my root gurus. His Holiness, the Great Songam Rinpoche came to my room, and I got a bucket of water and I was washing his feet. And I was washing it with lots of love and care. And I was washing it and I dried it and I put my head toward it. And then I woke up very happy. And I asked my other teacher, who was with me, His Eminence Dragon Rinpoche, of the Kagyu Pasek, and I asked him, oh, I had a very unusual dream. I didn't know you had these signs. I said, what does that mean? He says, oh, your purification practices are taking effect. This I share with you to share with you. This is not to tell you that I'm a teen. I have a lot more karma to purify. But because of those purification practices, I can tell you a lot of sicknesses that would have come to me have been avoided. And the sicknesses that have come to me have been very less. And the degree is less. And also when I take certain medicines, it takes effect. Purification practices work. It must be done with the four opponent powers. If the four opponent powers are applied and you do the purification practices, you will be able to purify your negative karma. You will be able to collect new karma, good karma. And if it's dedicated toward bodhicitta or enlightenment, it will become merit. Therefore, one must apply the four opponent powers. Remorse, the resolution not to do it again. Antidote, any antidote application, such as vajrasattva, such as prostrations, mandalas, purification practices. Number 4, to do the opposite of what you have been doing. For example, to do charity, to have compassion, to meditate, to study. In fact, to substitute your time of negativities with your time of positive activities. That is very basic. That is very fundamental. That is in every religious faith. Therefore, I told you in the beginning of this session that every religious faith is fundamentally the same. Now, what is left is for us to do it. Today, all of you know. Today, all of you are in sound mind and health, and you can hear it. And you can absorb it, and you can understand it. It is up to you to do it. It is up to you to apply it. Therefore, salvation is in your hands.